Hey guys, this is Brad from Blue Nile Farm. Today I'm going to show you part of the rebaling process that I have to do whenever there's too much debris that builds up when we're rebaling. And what we're talking about today is actually removing the bale unroller from its current position in front of the baler because there's lots of debris that's built up underneath. So I'm going to show you my technique and what modifications I did to make this an easy process. So stay tuned and I'll take you through the process. So I've been rebaling hay for about 8 years, and one of the things that I was looking for when I did start the rebaling process is how can I do it on the cheap, because I didn't know if this is something I wanted to do. And I found the Hustler brand that was out there, out of Australia, and they basically made a chainless 1500 bale and roller that was designed for rebaling hay. And because it was a one-piece unit and it made some simple sense to me, and more importantly, I had a guy in Pennsylvania that was marketing these, I decided, hey, why don't I check them out? So I wound up buying the unit and I brought it home and I started rebaling. Now, when I first bought it though, primarily the unit was operated through somebody sitting in the cab of the tractor and operating the controls that were unrolling the bale into the baler. Well, I got rid of that unit system because I really didn't like the fact of sitting on a tractor looking backward all the time, and I had a hard time watching it feed. So I wound up having a stand built. We got a 2-spool valve system, and we had it run to our remotes. So now I control everything that goes into my baler from on the ground, and that's what I choose. Then this system works well for me. Now, speed up 8 years, now Hustler is selling their chainless unrollers, and a different brand and different model, but they have a valve system that's connected to the bale unroller. That makes it a lot easier for people. But regardless, one of the biggest problems is that when you put this chainless baler in front of a baler, depending on how your setup is, you still have a lot of debris that builds up. So today I'm going to show you how we remove this unit, the bale unroller as the unit, and so we can clean underneath it. And I want to show you some of the techniques that I've done to modify it to make it easier for myself, and it might be something, if you have a unit like this, you may want to do this as well. So when it comes down to cleaning your bale unroller between the baler and the unroller, the best modification I ever did is to have these tubes that are here. I have 2 of them, and they're welded to the bottom of this chainless unroller. So I can come in with a set of forks, pick it up, and remove it so I can do a deep cleaning. The other thing is, setting this up is really cumbersome. And I can use a skid steer to kind of put this right in the right position, drop it, and set it up, and then start rebaling. And that's what makes it easy to handle this unit. I don't know how anybody else moves this thing around, but one of the best inventions that I ever did is to put these tubes in. Because a skid steer or a tractor allows you to pick this unit completely up, pull it out of the way, set it back in position, and you're off and running, and it's a lot easier to use. Now, they come with caster wheels if somebody chooses. The downfall of caster wheels is you have to be on a concrete to move this around. I ideally don't like this to move at all, and it does move once in a while. But a lot of times when you're rebaling, your tractor's running, your PTO's running, your baler's running, this unit stays stationary, and you're going to see your tractor and your baler moving because of the PTO running and rocking the tractor. So a lot of times if you don't have it set up right, you're going to a lot of times scratch your baler and rub it up against this unroller. And it depends on how tight of a fit that they actually have when they're set up. So it's important when you purchase a bale unroller, if you're into rebaling, that you make sure that the mouth of this is equivalent to the mouth or greater to the baler. Because I'd rather have too much baler, like a mega mouth baler, eating the hay than have a real short feeding window and you have too much feed going into the baler and you're losing hay or it's not going in well. And that's what's going to cause you problems in the production process of rebaling. So it is best to match the unroller to the proper baler and know that going into it. And I think a lot of people find out after the fact, not prior, when they're trying to set this situation up. So that's to be said. But anyway, we're going to talk about removing this today, and that's what our goal is. All right, so we had a problem with the baler, and just to show you, this is the bale unroller with the bale and the unroller right now. You can see all the hay buildup between underneath the bale unroller, and you can see it between the tines and the area where it falls in at the baler. And then if you look back here by the controls, you'll see a bunch of hay that's distributed, and it is just packed up from being pulled from underneath the needles, and we pull it away from the needle area where a lot of chaff buildup is, and it kind of compounds here. So we're going to get all this stuff removed and get this thing cleaned out. Now, there's another area that we need to deal with, and I'll kind of walk around here and show you. And that's over on this side, and all that hay that's we pulled from underneath the plunger area, and it's just basic chaff that falls down. So we're going to do a real big thorough cleaning before the weather gets cold. Another area that we got to clean is really underneath the bale unroller, and you get a lot of hay buildup that falls down in between. And of course, we're going to have to pull all the hay that is between the PTO shaft area and the unroller. And you'll see a lot of that compound because it basically falls off out of the unroller area and it falls into here sometimes when it's feeding. The next thing we're going to do is just line up our forks and get them into the tubes. So once they're lined up, I'm going to put a little pressure, pick this thing up, so you're going to try to pick this thing up and get it out of the way. So you can see this is all the hay debris that we got to clean up that's in the way. And what I'm going to try to do is try to free up the lines that were under, they go to the tractor. So I have tractor lines. There's like 4 different lines that go to our controller. We're going to remove all these things. It's just got to be separated. And then we're going to clean up all this debris. So one of the biggest problems is, especially like me, haven't taken this thing apart and did a thorough cleaning in probably 6 months. And I have a lot of dirty hay. So pulling this out is important. There's a lot of line in here, and to me, I have to separate it out, and I throw everything into the unwinder. So this is our controller. It's going to be put in here. We'll grab all our lines, separate everything out. So under the chainless baler, just so you see, here are a lot of the lines. There's like 4 sets of lines, and I try to keep them away from the caster wheels because I don't want to crush my lines. But this is all debris that you just would be surprised how much hay is actually in here. There's probably 5 to 6 yards easy just between that accumulate between the baler and the bale unroller. So here's the amount of hay that we have left over between the bale unroller and the hay baler itself. Just want to show you how much there actually is, and it's a large amount. I mean, here's the skid steer. I'm probably going to have 6 to 7 bucket loads worth of hay, and I'm just going to feed it out just to get rid of it because it's still good. There's nothing wrong with it. Actually, a lot of the animals like it because it has a lot of the seeds and a lot of the fines in there. But you got to do this probably every 4 to 5 times a year, and it keeps your baler running smooth. And you don't always have to do this as a cleaning option, but I think a good thorough cleaning about 4 or 5 times a year really makes a big difference. So that's what works for my operation. You may do it more, may do it less, depending on how often you re-bale, and that's just my suggestion. So here's a front shot of all that hay that we're removing with the skid steer. It's a pretty good quantity, and you can see how the hay is kind of hanging in between parts of the baler where the belts are. I kind of just like to keep that cleaned out so everything runs smoothly, and it makes a big difference, because if you have a breakdown, some of them are avoidable, and this is one of them. So try to keep this as clean as possible so your machine's running freely as it should and nothing binds it up. So when it comes down to cleaning, especially like in here, it really doesn't take long, but you need to set yourself up for success. So number one, I have basically stall mats underneath this baler and specifically underneath this unroller. So I'm on a dirt floor, so with the stall mats, it makes it way easier to clean up this hay. Plus it keeps the hay from getting moist to the ground, so I can easily scoop everything up. Secondly, the two tools that you want to use that are the best, when you got really bulky, you want a multi-tine fork. Obviously it makes it easier to get this hay, but it is a little bit chopped up. But when you're getting down to the seed heads and you're getting into the fines, a stall fork for horse stalls, you know, works wonders. And it's really nice to glide along the ground and to get all this loose chafy stuff, because there is a lot of it and it just scoops it right up very easily. You know, it does not take long to get this done, but it's a maintenance program that you have to have. And by having the equipment, you know, equipped where I can lift this out with the skid steer, really speeds up the process. And, you know, with these stall mats is another thing. So do yourself a favor, set yourself up for success, get it to where it works best for you. I definitely highly recommend being able to lift that bale and roller out with a set of forks if you have the opportunity to do so. And also, you know, keep this machine on some kind of mat or concrete floor. And I think the mats, even if I had a concrete floor, I'd go with the mats too, because concrete does, you know, grab moisture, and once this hay gets wet and gooey, it just gets rotty and it's harder to get off. This stuff here really doesn't rot that much, and the quicker you can, you know, clean this off on a regular basis, the better off you are. But, you know, get in here and clean this out the best you can. And all this hay, like I say, is usable, and I just feed it up to your horses, cows, whatever, and it doesn't go to waste. And I'm not too disappointed with it. But just get in this program of doing this on a regular basis, and your machine won't break down, and it'll be a lot easier for you. So there's two other tools I highly recommend you using. One's a rake. This is used to reach underneath that baler and pull everything out, and you get one with the metal tines to it. It makes a huge difference. The other thing, get yourself a portable blower. I don't care what brand you use. Battery operated works good. This is a Milwaukee, and it helps you blowing off not only all the dust and dirt off your baler, but underneath on the ground, and it helps in the cleanup process. These are indispensable, and I highly suggest you do this. And these tools will make your life way easier than trying to figure out what works best. You know, so this is my recommendation. So I want to show you underneath the baler here, and what you're going to see, well, down low, this is all chaff, fine seeds, and just starting to stick to your tines. And this is an area you specifically need to clean out, or you're going to start breaking your tines. And this is why you have to do this on a regular basis, because you may get away with not cleaning this out and removing this for months. But the problem is, all those fines that keep getting hit by those tines, is the hay keeps getting beat down and breaking the smaller pieces. They get pretty tight and dense, and they will start to cause you problems. So you want to clean underneath this baler at all times, even though that stuff comes through the other side. But you want to clean it out, and because I think this is one of the biggest areas we're going to have the most problems if you don't maintain it. So try to get underneath it, and it'll preserve your tines. You'll have less breakdown issues, and it'll all work out better for you. But you're going to see, though, once we start re-baling, you know, it doesn't take long for this to build back up again. And that's why this has to be routine maintenance at all times. So here we are behind the baler, and I know it looks dirty and dusty under here, but all that buildup is from the rear end that the tines push through. And so what we're going to do is we're going to reach under here with a rake, pull all that out, and that's really the easiest and best way to clean it out without causing yourself trouble. And then we'll get a blower and blow all the cobwebs out. But this is all dust related because it's a pretty dusty process. So here's a shot now after we clean it out, and you can see the huge difference, how it should be clean underneath. And it really makes a difference. This is the stuff we pulled out of the front, which is considerable. But let's go around the back and I'll show you that. And all this is what came out of the back end underneath this baler. Now, when we go under here and look, after I blew it out a little bit, you can see how clean it is now, and we have good access. So it's a huge difference, and it's just something you need to maintain, and you'll be in good shape. So I want to show you some things that you need to do as far as maintenance to the bale and roller. And what happens is over time, especially when the hay gets starting to get compressed up, these tines that go around that unroll the baler wind up breaking off a lot of little pieces, and they get caught in this little groove. And instead of trying to pull it out, and sometimes it's easy, sometimes when you get closer to the tines, they're very tight. So there's a apparatus on the sides here that you lift up, and I suggest you use gloves because these things are kind of sharp. And there's a lever right here on this edge, and you have to be able to pull it up like that on both sides, and on both sides there is a lever, and once you pop it up, it drops the plate, and then you can easily clean out all that hay that's stuck in here. And you'll notice most of the tightness is in the tines. So the best thing you can do is get this stuff pulled out. So sometimes I just take a screwdriver and get it in here, but this is all just, like I say, build up. Now you could do this also with this machine set up, but a lot of times, if it gets to this point, my suggestion is it's probably time that you actually clean this whole thing out. But it's relatively very simple to do, and makes a big difference. So I just need to get a screwdriver over here, but for the most part, actually no, it's just coming right out. So there you have it. So the next thing you do is you're going to have to reverse order. So you actually almost have to pick this up and then latch these down. Just pick it up and latch it down, and that's it. It's a done deal, real simple. Now that you have the ramp lifted up, get in here with the pitchfork, remove all the hay, debris, and chaff that's laying on the frame of this machine, because after a while it starts to pack in tight, and you want to remove all this so it's free of any kind of obstructions. And this is a good time to use the pitchfork and the blower and get this thing cleaned out. So here's a quick demonstration of how we're going to use a skid steer to get it in position. One of my best suggestions is make sure you have a spotter, because it is generally a tight fit, and you definitely don't want to collide and smash your bale unroller into your baler. So I always have a spotter, and it makes a big difference for me. And secondly, I've used both the tractor and the skid steer. The skid steer is a little bit more maneuverable, and I like that better. But I have done it with the tractor many times, and it works just as good. But you're definitely going to have a little bit more control with the skid steer, and you'll feel a little bit better with the balance. And this machine here is a real tight fit for me, and I just want to show you a quick demonstration of us setting it in position. Here you can take a good look at the tractor, how dusty it is. And this tractor hasn't moved in probably 5-6 months easy, pretty much since the spring, and it's been sitting here. And there's a lot of dust all over it. It's going to get an oil change. You can see how dusty it is, almost like an antique sitting in the shop. Lots of dust all over the cab. I mean, cobwebs, dust. It's a little bit of everything. So we're going to give this tractor a real thorough cleaning. Coming to the back of the PTO area. You can see all the cobwebs up on the hood, on top of the cab. A lot of dust, debris. And this is all just from rebaling and dust that's produced from the hay. So it's kind of important that we deal with this. So here we are outside. I took the LS out from the rebaling area, and we're going to give it a massive cleaning. We're going to do an oil change, blow out the air cleaners, replace the cleaner, do the hydraulic oil and that maintenance for the filter. So we're going to do all that. But first thing we do is wash this down. I just want to show you from being outside how bad it actually looks with the cobwebs and stuff. So we're going to hose it down, and we'll go from there. I'll give you a quick walk around to this tractor and show you how dusty it is. So you can see the back end is pretty dusty. All the way up to the cab. We're going to have to hit the roof of the cab. There's a lot of dust buildup that occurs when you do the rebaling. And you'll notice a lot of times when you talk about your air cleaners, your filters, you can look at actually the side panel there, and you can see how much dust is actually getting sucked into the engine. So that's something that you kind of want to maintain and make sure you don't overheat. But that's a common issue. So a lot of dust, debris, cobwebs, and we're going to go around the whole machine, get it all hosed off. All right, so there you have it. Let's get to it. So now that the tractor's washed, we're going to give it a full service, and once that's done, it's going to get hooked back up to the 338 baler, and the lines will be hooked up and it'll be ready to go and start producing more square bales. A couple things I want to point out though, as far as this tractor is concerned, is that if you are going to select a tractor for rebaling, I do believe you should have a cab versus an open station, because there's a lot of dust in the air and it'll keep your cab area from being a big mess. Unless you're going to pull your tractor out on a regular basis. For me, I keep this tractor designated pretty much 100% of the time to basically rebaling. And so this is what this tractor does. It just rebales. So this thing's going to just sit there. But if you don't have that many tractors, you can pull this out and basically use it and back it in when you need to for your rebaling outfit. That's fine, because at least you'll keep your tractor clean. Second thing I want to talk about is also the dust. Make sure that you maintain your cooler and your radiator from being filled with dust. Go check that on a regular basis. You know, blow it out with the air compressor. You'll be fine with that. Keep your screens done. Keep your filters clean. You know, blow that dust out, because there's a lot of dust that will get into that engine, and you want to at least get that circulation going. Other than that, there's really not much to it. The other thing too is you want to get a tractor that has low horsepower. You know, this is a 55 horse tractor, so it does a really good job as far as not producing a lot of fumes, and it does not go through a lot of fuel. And those are two of the positive things that I like about using this as well. So find the right tractor that works for your operation. You know, I'm on the indoors, so again, I don't want to get gassed out of my building. You know, I used 100 horse tractors when I first started, and they gassed me right out of the building. It was terrible. You know, now with this thing can run with the doors closed in the coldest day of the winter time, and you'll never be gassed out. It does a great job. You know, I have a Kubota that's a 70 some horse, and the odor from that tractor is a lot more annoying. This one, you just barely would know. So keep that in mind. And this is all I'm really going to discuss about the tractors. But, you know, keep it clean, and that's really, and keep it maintained, because that is your power source. So here's a rare moment at my place where you'll finally get to see my bale, unroller, and rebaling operation totally clean. And like I said, I do this annually, and when I made my prior videos, I didn't do this. So this is a great opportunity for you to see what it looks like totally clean and how everything fits together. You know, and that's kind of one of the most important parts of this whole operation, is getting these pieces to fit together optimally. And that's kind of why I wanted to point out different measurements so you guys understand when you match your equipment. And it'll make a big difference. And that's one of the mistakes that I didn't do when I first started. But I learned to adapt, and this does work well for me, so I'm not complaining. So let me show you and walk around while it's clean so you can really see how everything fits so well together. Now I want to go and show you how to actually set this thing up properly and where everything should be set so you can actually use this to run and start rebaling hay. So I have my John Deere 338 baler behind me, and I'm going to kind of show you how we got everything to set in a position and how it should be set, and how all you need to do is hook up to a tractor and start working. So let's go on this quick tour. So first you can see that the bale and roller sitting here on caster wheels, and again, I told you I have the tubes. And we set this bale and roller in position using a skid steer. The hoses are set, and they must be between the two caster wheels so that they're not getting crushed or crimped, so they don't create leaks. Over here is my stand. I can move the stand forward or back depending on where I want it. We just set it there for now, but I'm probably going to move it a little bit farther over here, so it allows me the access to get in to deal with cores and get them to basically be fed into the baler. The most important aspect here that we discussed is the length with this plastic yellow sheet, and in conjunction to the tines. Like I said, it's about 5'3" to 5'4" inches from here to here, and this whole yellow sheet is 6 foot. And everything is set in here very tightly. But you can see that there's going to be a gap between the tines and the yellow piece of plastic. You don't want them to hit each other, and so I have to create a gap. So what's going to happen is eventually, as hay starts to fall in there, it's going to start to mound up, and basically all the hay that comes through the rebaler is going to waterfall right into the tines and go right in directly. But you're going to still see some chaff and fines are going to fall, you know, between the baler and the unroller, and that's the aspect that you need to keep clean. So let's go on the other side. I'm going to show you how tight this actually is, you know, when this thing's set up. So one of the things that you saw maybe in the other video, well, here's all the hoses on the ground, and you can see there's 4 sets of hoses, and they go straight through. Hoses that are right here are the ones that hook up to the tractor. They're set off to the side because the tractor's not hooked up yet. And I want to show you the gap that is set between the baler and the unroller, and they're right here. And you can see a lot of the paint that's been worn off because this thing is rubbed up against the baler at times, because when the tractor's hooked up to the baler, the whole thing's going to start rocking. And a lot of times this unit's stationary, so it's going to rub on the unit. So try to keep a gap between them, and you got to get these things to fit well. And if they fit well, they're going to run well for you. But if you're not set up properly, you're going to have a little bit of an issue. So that's why I say you need to understand the widths between the mouth of the baler and the bale and roller. It makes a huge difference in your operation. And here's the other side where you can actually look down and you can see how everything's positioned. One little tip I want to show you real fast before I hook this thing up to the tractor is that, you know, a lot of times with hydraulic remotes, we all have a pattern that we like and have everything set up. And some guys just stick hoses under their tractor and they're like, hey, well, I'll figure it out, and whatever way I run it, I'll run it that way. You know, whether I push down to raise something or pull up to raise something or lower it, you know, they just kind of go with the flow. I personally like to be real consistent. So once I have the proper setup, and say if I pull on my remotes in the tractor and everything raises, that's the setting that I'd like. I'll go off behind the tractor, I'll take a twisty tie, and I'll put it on the first hose that's there always in the top, or the first one that has to be applied into the tractor to get to work. and then the other one I leave blank. So every time that I plug this in, I know this is the first hose to put in based on the twisty tie. Just a quick tip that I do. Maybe that'll help somebody out there that wants to be more consistent, something simple. But once you get in a routine, you can do that on all your implements, and you'll always have a proper setup every time you plug in there. And you know that if you pull back, it's a lift, and if you push down, it's a drop. And it makes a huge difference for me, and it may help you too. So just a quick tip on that. So as you guys can see, the tractor is finally back after a major cleaning. It's fully serviced, and we're ready to go for another 6-7 months of operation before I pull it out of here and give it another good cleaning in the spring. Just to let you guys know that, you know, once you get these tractors maintained, it's probably one of the most important things to do. Now the hydraulic lines are hooked up, and basically the PTO is hooked up, and so we're good to go. And the one thing that just so you guys know too is when you actually run the rebaler, you're actually going to have to probably use a bungee and hold down your hydraulic remote and to get the flow going, because basically you need constant flow to run this rebaler. So I use a bungee cord that I put in the tractor. Basically once it's running and the PTO starts, I just bungee cord the remote in the operating position, and we basically have total power to our rebaler. So that's all you need to do, and it's pretty simple to do. And just make sure you have the proper fluid, make sure everything's good to go, and you won't have any problems. Hey guys, thanks for watching that video. I know this is kind of a tedious and long video, but you know, getting the proper setup and managing the cleaning process and coming up with an easy way to doing this will make a huge difference for you. And I kind of wanted to spend a little bit of time kind of going over different aspects of things. You know, and the skid steer, like I say, with those tubes, I think it makes it work really good for me. You may be able to have just fork extensions and be able to reach the other side and lift this up too, or come up with your own methods. But the bottom line is, if you're into rebaling and you want to do a real thorough clean out, which you should do on a regular basis, you know, this is really the optimal way to do it, and this is probably the best way. But I just wanted to kind of cover those aspects of things. And the most important part of it is getting the proper setup as far as the width goes. I think that's something a lot of people don't take in consideration, and nobody really explains that to you when you get into this process. So I wanted to point that out as well. So if you have any questions, you know, I have a playlist on how to run the rebaling process from beginning to end, and I think that that's quite helpful for a lot of people. And I've really done a lot more in-depth videos really to show you the ins and outs of rebaling using a hustler bale unroller / rebaler. So with that said, thanks for watching again, and I'll see you guys soon. If you have any questions, please leave comments in the comment section and hopefully I can answer your questions.